Recent films and streaming platform dramas have showcased actors stepping outside their comfort zones like never before. From taking on characters vastly different from their previous roles to exploring entirely new genres, many stars are surprising viewers with bold transformations. Today, we're joined by Professor Jae Soh of the Seoul Institute of the Arts and a filmmaker himself to take a closer look at some of the most talked about performances and projects in recent days. Welcome back, Professor Soh.
Hello. Nice to be back.
All right, let's talk about a very hot drama these days, 참교육, or Teach You a Lesson. So the response overseas has been strong as well. Forbes even saying it may be one of the best dramas this year. So what do you think? Why is it resonating with people in Korea and abroad?
Well, it's definitely hit a nerve. I watched a couple of episodes already, and basically what I found was it just grabs you from the beginning. And the reason why this sort of series on Netflix is so popular is because it really kind of puts into the forefront sort of societal anxieties that we have. You know, in the past decades, Korean education has been going through reforms and basically, sort of updating student rights and, democratization of the school system. But at the sort of like, we've had good intentions, but it's also sort of taken away the rights of teachers now. An abusive parent can actually go and make hell for the teachers at the high school level. So this has become like a hot social issue where students and bullies and basically violence in school systems have become sort of like rampant. Not as rampant as this film, but as this series. But basically, I watched it with my son, and my son was like, "That's not. It's a little exaggerated." So, but what I found, what was really fascinating about it, it hit the zeitgeist of what's happening in Korea right now. And I think in the West, they might see this as like sort of like social justice or something like this, but for Korea, I think it really kind of hit a nerve. I think it may have like, helped people to sort of understand it, or a lot of frustrations that teachers have was sort of like, exercised by this. But it was also based on a popular webtoon called Get Schooled, and they've, I think, seriously, this series, I saw the webtoon, it's even better than the webtoon. So the director is Hong Jong-chan, and yeah, it's definitely, got something, and the first episode really grabbed you. Yeah.
Definitely. That's why I couldn't stop after the first episode.
Yeah, and I think it's not just a problem here in Korea. Not that you should believe everything on social media, but you do see it in other countries as well, where there's a lot of violence towards teachers, and I think that globally, many countries could relate to that as well. But staying on this drama, the standout performance at the moment is Kim Woo-yeol. In particular, like obviously the way he's acting, and many, without jumping the gun, many are calling it his career-defining moment at the moment, he's calling almost. He's known for his commanding presence, basically in every project. He's got a quite interesting look, in my opinion, in a great way. But what aspects of his acting stood out to you the most in this drama?
Well, he's famous for, the Roundup, one of the Roundup series, Punishment, and then also Sweet Home and Trigger. Usually he plays the tough guy, and you can know it's Kim Woo-yeol because he doesn't necessarily have a lot of lines in these movies, and his presence is there. Very tough guy. He usually comes out in action or thrillers. But I think what's interesting about this one, it is an action movie in a sense, but he's actually a teacher in this, sort of like he works for the government, and he has a militaristic background, in his past, but he comes out as sort of like this tough guy with a tough, like exterior, but he's very human inside because there's actually a tragedy that brought him to this stage. And then I thought some of the scenes where he talked to a bullied kid and they're eating ramen at a convenience store, it was really touching because it showed a different part of Kim Woo-yeol, because most of the time he's the tough, macho dude, but he has a softer side to this thing. And after all, the whole purpose of this story is about a government agency that's created to sort of restore order in this kind of chaos in the school system. So I think that's what's interesting about it. He's not just playing some, thug or a cop hitting people, but it's actually he's going after parents, bullies, and then even politicians. So that's what's interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Right, I actually have to say, when I just look at his appearance, I feel like he looks like a person who wouldn't hurt a fly. But because of these roles, I guess he's become that tough guy in these roles, such as in 참교육 or TeachYouALesson. But beyond streaming platforms, let's go now to the big screen, to theaters. Currently, Waltzing, we touched upon this movie last time a bit, but let's talk about Kang Dong-won, and he's playing an idol or a former idol turned dancer, and his performance is really great there with all the choreography. And yeah, what do you think about his transformation?
Yeah, I think Kang Dong-won's kind of a really fascinating actor because, you know, he's done action films, he's done dramas, he's done, you know, melodramas, love stories. And I think in this one, it's a comic role, and he's really good at comedy as well, even in a dramatic sense. And I think he took the role really seriously. So what I really find fascinating about actors is like when they try something that, you know, he's not exactly in his 20s now, you know, and he's trying to be an idol. So I really took about a couple of months, like 5 months, to actually learn breakdancing, you know, head spinning. He actually did the moves himself. So I think he dedicated it, like, you know, if an actor takes a role where you have to really research the role. And so I think the defining moment for him is he's really playing a serious sort of like older idol that wants to reclaim his brilliant past. So those things sort of add to the whole movie, and I think people appreciate that as well when they go see the movie as well.
Right, and another hot topic surrounding Waltzing is actually Choi Sung-gun, or played by Oh Jung-se, because his song from the film has gone viral. It's become unexpectedly a music hit, and I'm not exaggerating, it's my favorite song these days. I keep singing it every day.
Every day.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so why do you think this has resonated so much with the audience?
Again, it's like there's a trend going on even in Hollywood right now where there are movies done by people that are basically YouTube stars that, you know, sort of connected with the movies, and young audiences are flocking to the movie theaters because of social media. And I think what's interesting about this is it's a phenomenon that was created for the movie, and the character Choi Sung-gun is somebody that always finished second in a competition, so he has this kind of frustration in him. And Oh Jung-se is, again, he's a comic genius in a sense, and so he took this role really seriously as somebody that's like always has like a chip on his shoulder. And so when he created this, I think the audiences went beyond the movie, and they just wanted to create this, like, you know, a sensation that he indeed, you know, ended up succeeding as sort of like this character, but as a real Choi Sung-gun who finally has a hit,
right,
you know, that everybody likes, you know, especially you.
Especially so. Let's talk about another megastar actress, Shin Mina, in an upcoming film, The Eyes, or 눈 동자 in Korean. It's also drawing its, you know, fair share of attention. Now, she's long been associated really with like romantic comedies, melodramas, but this time she's kind of done a complete 180 and worked on a thriller. What aspects of this new role stand out to you the most?
Well, basically the movie hasn't been released yet, but, you know, from watching the trailers and reading up on it, it's actually a remake of a Spanish movie called Julia's Eyes. So it's a thriller. And Shin Mina actually plays a twin, you know, she has a twin sister. And so she's playing two roles at once. And again, for actors, that's sort of like, you know, basically a test of like your sort of acting prowess or your ability. So, and in this movie, you know, it's called Eyes because she has a genetic defect where she's losing her eyesight slowly. And then her sister commits suicide. So the movie is like trying to find out what happened to her sister. Was she murdered, or was she, you know, committed suicide? And then gradually she's losing her eyesight. So I think it's a challenge for her for the first time. I think her image is sort of like a pristine person that's usually, as you mentioned, in romance movies or comedies, things like that. But this is a kind of a real serious role where she's sort of like in a thriller situation where she has to react a lot, you know. And I think we're going to kind of see a new version of Shinmina. Really excited to see that movie.
Right. We might talk about that again later once we watch it, because I'm also very interested in that movie. But let's finally talk about a movie that you actually watched, Professor Soh,
Yes.
which is The Shrine. And it features Kim Jae-jung, who has been long loved as a K-pop star. So,
동방신기.
yeah, Dongbang-shingi, of course. So he takes on the role as a shaman in an occult horror film. So what new side of Kim Jae-jung can we look forward to in this project?
Yeah, I was shocked, because the last movie he did was like 12 years ago. It's called Coming of the Jackal. That was a comedy. And then in dramas, Kim Jae-jung always plays sort of like the handsome guy, sort of a rich man's son, things like that. And this is a kind of a new sort of term for him, because he's like a shaman, like a priest in this movie. And as shamans do, he brings all the the bells and things like that. So, and initially, this movie kind of is interesting because it's actually shot in Japan by a Japanese director. His name is Kumakiri, and basically he wrote the script, but this is done with Korean production money. So it's set in Kobe, and it's about like these college students that sort of one of them disappears, and so now the whole story is like trying to go find this sort of like person who's possessed, and it happens that Jae-jung is sort of a shaman that sort of exercises all this stuff. So I heard initially he was attracted by the story because the character was kind of funny in the beginning. And then the director met him and he was like, no, I think you should be serious. So Jae-jung, really kind of delved into sort of being I guess like doing sort of all these shamanistic rituals. Sometimes I felt like I was the only one in the theater laughing a little bit because, it's weird to see 동방신기 doing gut, things like that. So, but at the same time, for me personally, being a horror fan, I wasn't really scared by the movie. And the director, maybe, his style is more like art films. So he was taking a kind of a new way of shooting it. It was very kind of long, and a lot of times, modern horrors, like things move fast, and really things come out. And it was almost like you saw things coming a little bit too early. So that's my only thing. But Jae-jung was great in it. So that's what I'm happy about. Yeah.
Right. So if it's not too scary, maybe it's actually something that I could try out. But yes, it was very interesting today again, and especially because The Shrine, I guess, is also a production that's made between Korea and Japan. Maybe
Yes.
we'll see more of that happening as well. So this was kind of K-shamanism combined with J-horror, I guess.
With Hinduism.
Oh, with Hinduism.
There's a Hindu
As
god
well,
in the story
right.
as well, yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have today, Professor Soh. Looking forward to next time, and have a great weekend.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Professor.
Have a great weekend.
And thank you, Walter. As always, we're going to have you back here next week.
See you next week.